Leslie, welcome to the Sipping Point.
Thank you, Laurie. I am happy to be here. It's good seeing you today.
You too. I think a memory of one of our Instagram or Facebook lives just came up yesterday or the day
Did.
before. So maybe this is just our time of year to get together and talk wine. And first of all, you brought two amazing South African wines to the table, and we're going to taste and talk about those. But I love what you're doing, and I think it's so unique and so needed in the wine industry. So maybe you could talk a little bit about your vision for the Wine Concierge, how that all came together. Of course, I think I know the story, but I know my listeners would love to know as well.
Oh, sure. Well, it's one of the probably millions of COVID babies that happen. And prior to COVID, I still have a Maryland wine tours company. And during COVID, we weren't able to conduct wine tours at all. And we did a lot of virtual tastings. And as alcohol was on such a rise during that time, and people really did not need me to tell them how to drink. They were very proficient at that. So I decided to start an online wine store. And we were going on our merry little way. And then in May of 2020, George Floyd was killed, and there was a reckoning in all sorts of industries, but there was a reckoning in wine, and it was, about representation and how women aren't represented, or there are a number of women there, but they're still not brought to the table. And there was a realization that was 1% of blacks in wine. And so all of these conversations were going. And, when something like that happens, you're like, well, what can I do? Like, what influence, what can I do to make a difference? And so I decided to continue to open the wine store, but make the focus on women and minority winemakers. And we just took off from there. And so the wines that we pick are very intentional, that we select wines are from smaller boutiques, more artisan type of wines that you're not always going to see in your big places. You're not going to see in Target or what have you. And that is because we want them to have exposure that they may not have, because distribution is so hard in the
Yes.
industry. And
Yeah, I
so,
should probably do a whole show on the three-tier system and the craziness of that, because I'm not sure,
yeah,
your everyday wine drinker understands how
no, they
difficult it
don't.
is to get onto a shelf or get sales, and
Hmm.
how each time you move from the winery, money is taken, really. And so, the winemakers themselves don't often make as much as people think they do. But I
Right.
I love that you're giving them this outlet, not only through, now you have a podcast, and we'll have to give out that info at the end
Hmm.
as well, but also through your tastings, your live tastings, and your club. And so you're able to ship to many states directly
Yes,
to a consumer's home. And so they could do the wine of the month club. And can they also just go on and order,
they sure can.
onesie twosies?
Right, right. So, like, if you have commitment issues and you don't want to be in a wine club, totally get it. You can just go on our site and order. So, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. And
Hmm.
yeah, just to support women, people of color. And I think you're right. We just didn't, I always realized, like, I don't understand why the wine, when I would go to wine tastings and it would be so non-diverse, I guess, if you want to call it that, because I know there are people of color who love drinking wine. So,
Hmm.
it just never made sense to me. And I think it was that idea of, that feeling included, and feeling in a place of people like you. And that's what you and a lot of your other fellow podcasters have done since that reckoning, as you call
Right.
it, just
Hmm.
making people feel more comfortable to come into the fold, and like there's going to be others like me there, and I'm going to feel comfortable. So
Exactly.
I appreciate that. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of really featuring amazing wines from diverse backgrounds, as we're having this conversation, you did send me two wines that I think
Hmm.
you also have that we're going to talk about, both from South Africa. And the first one is a Chenin Blanc, and I'd love if you just told us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So it's Brooklyn, not Brooklyn, Brookdale, excuse me.
Yes.
Brookdale is it's a nice sized vineyard in South Africa. And they are in Peril, which most people
Mm.
think of the Cape, um, but they are in Peril. And the winemaker, I think she's maybe 27. Like she's a
Oh my
baby.
gosh.
Yeah, I
Wow.
could have birthed her. She's a, yeah.
Me too.
Um, and she just recently won Winemaker of the Year in South Africa, this international award, which is amazing. But and she won it for the Chenin Blanc.
Okay.
Yeah, she won it for the Old Vine Chenin Blanc. But the the vineyard is extremely progressive, and they are all about. They have this. One of their wines is called 16 Blend,
Okay.
and it is literally a field blend. And
Oh,
so
neat.
it is whatever is planted, they grab. And so literally they do not have they don't know what's in the bottle. And so yeah.
Everything in
So
the kitchen sink.
it is pretty much, and they hired. She was telling me the story where they hired a consultant, and the consultant, meticulously went through each row and labeled them, and the owner went behind them and switched up everything and
Oh,
threw
wow.
out the labels. But it's an amazing, it's an amazing blend, and you truly have no idea what is in there. It's a white wine, but with this Chenin Blanc, they're definitely older vines. You can see that she did age that in oak because it's got a beautiful
Yes.
color on it. It's
Got
got
that
a
golden, little bit of
yes.
creaminess on the
Hmm.
nose.
It has a really nice nose, and there's traditional honeysuckle flavors, um,
Absolutely.
but it is definitely a great full body white wine for those individuals who don't want something as green as a Sauvignon Blanc, right? And then they don't want anything on the other left or right, whatever you would consider that, as a
Right.
Chardonnay that's too buttery. It's like perfectly right in the middle, and it's got these great floral nose on it as well. And
It really
then
does.
it's just so supple on the palate.
And honey was the thing, that honey and that creaminess. But then when you take this sip, you do have that nice acidity. It's still very
Hmm.
balanced. I think you mentioned big buttery Chardonnay, where for a lot of people it's just too much oak
Right.
and it's too soft for them, possibly depending on the style. But this is such a great balance. You get that nice creaminess, but you also have the acidity that would make this like really great with sautéed fish with a little bit of butter, or even roast chicken. So you could kind of
Yes.
go a lot of ways with this. I love it.
And
And
you don't think of Chenin Blanc as one of those, especially from South Africa, as one of those age worthy, um, potentially reserved wines. But
mm,
this definitely really competes very well. Um,
nice.
of your French Chenin, you think of your Bouverets or what have you, but this is something that is a classic.
I love it. And what would this retail if I go into your site and I'm going to
Oh
pick
yeah,
this up?
this one is. I was just looking at it today. It's 33 a
Okay.
bottle. Hmm.
Really beautiful. And let's give the website out now. Why don't we? And I'll give it out again at the end. But if folks are listening and they want to hop on there and order it right away, your website is?
The wineconcierge.co.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Awesome.
and
Well, I love
yeah,
I love the Brookdale, and I love to see that there's a young woman there pioneering winemaking, and I'm sure they've gone through evolutions of women being in the business, and seeing that hopefully more prevalent.
yeah, and it's so interesting. The more I learn about South African winemaking, the more I'm just so intrigued and so impressed by it because where they came from before, the conditions were horrible. It's like almost indentured, was it indentured
Uh,
servitude,
yes,
where like literally they were in the vineyard before the sun came up, and then at the end of the day they would ring like the chow bell and go home, and it would make miserable wages, and how they've become their own advocate for themselves, and practicing sustainable farming, which is incredible because we need to save the planet. um,
exactly.
so that whole movement there is just so impressive.
It's definitely on my wine bucket list. I've
Hmm.
not traveled there, although I know traveling there is just, quite the thing. It's like going to Australia, right? A super long trip,
It
but
is, yes.
everything I've seen makes it look amazing. So it's on the bucket list, and now even more so that I'm trying these wines. It's inspiring. So I know that you brought a red to the table as well, and a Syrah, and tell me a little bit about that. Now, the Brookdale goes to the extra effort of putting that wax cover on the top.
Yes.
Super, really impressive for a gift too. If you're gifting this
Hmm.
to someone, I put a little, decoration here
Oh,
on
that's
our
so cute.
Syrah, our Mason Road, and so we should definitely. I know red is going to be big over the holidays, and what is the
Hmm.
last time people can order to get this in time for the holidays?
So it would be the 20th.
Okay. All right.
and
Great.
and
So,
and that's is like, we're based in DC.
right.
um so you would get it way before then, but even if you're on the West Coast and you're in California, if you order by the 20th, it will be in your hot hands before the 25th.
Perfect. All right. So
Mhm.
don't wait, people. Get on it. So Mason Road Syrah and has the fun screw cap, people. Don't be afraid of it. It's
Thank
totally
you for
fun.
saying that.
I know some people still just love the romance of a cork, but really, I mean, and the Australians and New Zealanders will totally disagree, but if
Mhm.
you're not aging this for 20, 25 years, the cork is not going to make a huge difference here. And they would say it doesn't make a difference even if you are,
Right.
but a lot of people still are in that mindset. But I'm kind of appreciative because have you ever been in a hotel without a corkscrew? I
Oh
know
my
it sounds
goodness,
crazy.
yes.
And you're like, thank goodness this is a screw cap.
And then,
Um,
I don't know, I'm quite sure this has happened to you, where you've had like a wine tasting event and you've had to open up several bottles at a time, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm exhausted, popping. Da, da, da.
that's true.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, save the carpal tunnel on that one. So I did a little preview taste of this before we
Hmm.
started the interview, and yum! Oh my goodness! I know that's not a
Hmm.
technical term, but tell me a little bit more about the winery and why you selected this to be part of your lineup.
So this one, I love a good hearty red wine, and especially this time of year. I mean, you can just look at the color, the way it's presenting, and it is
Absolutely.
even richer and deeper in person. But it's just got so much skin contact and pigment there, and Syrah is always, to me, Syrah is like the younger sibling. Are you the younger sibling, Laura? Because Lori. I'm
I'm a
about to.
middle. I'm a
You
middle.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, the younger one is like,
Yes.
"Hi, I'm here to disrupt everything that was."
Oh, the youngest. I'm married to a youngest, so I get
Yes,
what you're talking about. Yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so Sarah is always like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And it has those characteristics, but not like in an obnoxious way. I mean, it's
No.
definitely going to capture your palate there. You're going to get some really good fruit on it, but not to the point of it being jammy. It's just subtle and not understated, but it's present without being obnoxious on there.
Yeah, you get really nice black fruit on the
Hmm.
nose and some red fruit, a nice spice kind of element. And then on the palate, it's in, you get bursts of that fruit, but not in a jam sort of way,
Right,
right? More
right.
in a fresh. And the tannin is there. That's that dry astringency that from red grape skins, certain
Hmm.
ones more than others, but it's not overwhelming. It's just a really nice sort of mid range where you can do meat with this, but you don't have to go full on stew, with it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Like you don't have to worry about grilling or what have you. This is something
right.
that you could bring to someone who enjoys a red wine, and they would have an appreciation for this wine. And like you just opened it. Just did you decant it?
I did not.
Okay,
No.
so just imagine if you decanted it or let it sit for another 20 minutes, how it
Okay.
definitely would it would open up. And
Yeah.
I would say this one, I mean, it's a lovely wine, but drink it now. Like, don't save it for the 20th anniversary when Laurie and I do this podcast again.
20 years from now. So,
Right.
Mason Road, the winery, tell me about the owners, the winemakers. What brought this into your diverse fold? Obviously it's South Africa, but
Right. So, and this was from our fall club. Our fall
okay.
club was a South African theme, and we did a look back, a comparison between um, South African varietals that are pretty common in France. And so we
Mm,
intentionally picked this Syrah because we wanted to do a comparison between the Rhone region. So it's interesting that you were talking about Rhone and
yes.
what the similarities are. And so with this one, um, it's very similar to a Rhone, not a Rhone blend, but like a Syrah that you would have in France, and the vineyard actually looks towards that French influence there that
Okay.
you would have in this particular vineyard. It is again, it's a smaller vineyard
Right.
than Brookdale, but they tend to. This one is in the Cape compared
Okay.
to the other one that was in Peril.
Nice. It's
Hmm.
really beautiful. I mean, actually picking up both of these for, gifts or a party, they really could go with a wide variety of foods. And
Yes.
and I think a lot of people, depending on their red wine style, are going to enjoy this, even if they like a little bit lighter, like a Pinot, or a heavier, like a Cab. This is a nice mid road,
Yes.
if you
Hmm.
will, to enjoy. I love that. And so if people want to join the club, what happens? Do they say, "Oh, I only like white. Give me whites and reds." You know,
They
how does it?
do.
It's every month. It's once a quarter. Tell me
It's
more.
once a quarter.
Okay,
It's once a quarter. So I am in the warehouse now. The lovely decor back
I
here.
see. I see the
You
boxes.
know,
You're ready to ship the wine to us.
and we are shipping. It is once a quarter, and it is drink what you like. So what
Okay,
happens is you sign up. There's no fee to sign up. You can select from our club, which is our everyday wines, or we have a reserve section, or
okay,
you can blend the two if you want to. And you can select 3, 6, or 12 bottles and add on. We have default wines there, but
okay,
you can say, I just want white wines and change them, or I just want red
okay.
wines or change them. I have some club members who are a certain age are like, we no longer can drink red wines. And
Oh,
so we
I
want
hope to
white
never see
wines.
that day.
Oh,
It's
I
heartbreaking.
know. But yeah, or I just want this particular wine, and you can do that. And that's I have always said and will continue to say, nobody should be intimidated by a grape. Like you
Yes,
should
amen.
know what you want, and have what you want. And so I don't want our club to be so stringent where you're like, okay, you can only have these and we'll see you in a quarter. Boom. I want
Love
people to
that.
have choice, and our club members have benefits of like I had mentioned, you can purchase wines on our site, so they can get a discount on their non-club wines. We have a lot of events because I'm really into building community, and they get advance notice, and some of those events are free to them. So it really
Nice.
is, yeah.
Love that.
I'm very pleased with our membership and their longevity because people don't stay in clubs very long, but we've had
Right.
people from the beginning of when that club was started.
I love that. And you have a great cause behind what you're trying to do.
Right.
And I think also that, the people that are there that support you, are going to want to still be part of that. And I love what you're saying about, people drinking what they like, drinking what they want, not being intimidated. Of course, I think we bond over that thought process. I always believe that whether you're listening to this podcast or you're coming to my event or Leslie's event, that the whole idea is I want to get people to trust their own taste. And when
Mm-hmm.
you learn more about how to describe, oh, I like high acidity wines, or I like wines with
Yeah,
tannin, or I don't like wines with tannin, so that when you go to a store or restaurant or to your website, you're not, like, I know what I like, but I don't know how to describe it. That I think is
exactly.
probably one of the biggest skills that anybody can gain through through what we do. So I appreciate keep with the cause. I love that.
I love how
um,
I think you put it so well, is you give people language to
yes.
describe what they like. Yeah.
Yes. And I think we can be confusing in the wine industry. And I think we're all trying to clear up the confusion every day, but hopefully we'll get there. One last question, because I know we just have a couple more minutes with
Mhm.
you. What would be, and I'm going to do a show about this after the first of the year, about what is your prediction for the coming year in wine? Anything you see that's going to be taking off, that you see as a trend that's going to build, or maybe just something you wish for?
I think on the producer side, I have seen more and more predictive analytics and tools, AI tools that are being
Okay.
used. And I think as the price point starts to go down on that, that you will see more producers using that and helping to determine what consumers like. So they're producing what they
Ooh.
like so they can, will continue to make money and not lose money. So it's not necessarily something that the consumers will see, but I think you'll see it more on the industry end, and helping people, like you said, give language to what they like, but also manufacturing things that people like, so it removes some of the doubt, like, am I going to like this or not, and profiling people.
Mm. I love that. Okay, more analytics. I would think that we'd be doing it already, but you're right. The wine industry, we're still getting into the technology of all of that.
Hmm.
Well, Leslie, it's been so amazing hearing all about the Wine Concierge. You brought two great wines to the table. I didn't ask you the retail on the Mason Road.
It's
Um,
20, I think it's 28.
Oh, what a great value.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
two great wines. You can go to the wineconcierge.co. You can check out the club or just order these wines. And it's just been fabulous having you here on the Sipping Point. And I wish you the happiest of holidays and a happy new year as well.
You too.